just after 6 in the morning and I'm here near Watford's Ring Road with David and Joe from our Outreach Plus team. They go out very early in the morning and late at night looking for people who are sleeping rough in Watford. David, what's it like for someone sleeping rough?
It'll be very cold most of the time, wet. There'll be a lot of lack of trust from the service user to start off when we meet with them, and yeah, it's not very nice, very uncomfortable, and I'd say cold is probably the first thing I would think of.
And Joe, why might someone be sleeping rough?
So there's many reasons why someone might be sleeping rough on sleep. It can come down to mental health or substance misuse, but it can also come down to just someone losing their job and not being able to pay their rent. So there's many reasons why someone might be on the street.
We're going to carry on walking now around Watford looking for people who have spent the night sleeping rough in Watford. I'm here at the Haven with Juliet, one of the support workers. When I got here, Juliet was busy helping someone who had come to the Haven in need of somewhere to stay. Juliet, can you tell me a little bit about the needs that people face?
So people arrive here cold, hungry, desperate, sad, sometimes wanting to talk, sometimes just wanting a place to rest, and always hungry. We receive a range of different people, different ages, male and female, from totally different circumstances. So it could be a relationship breakdown, it could be fleeing domestic abuse, it could be due to addiction, that they've lost their properties, it could be that they've been in prison and released with nowhere to go. Just thinking of an example that recently we had a young female that came to us. She'd had a relationship breakdown with her parents and been asked to leave. She didn't know where to turn to and she'd been sleeping in a colleague's car.
I'm outside our sanctuary emergency accommodation and we asked Sarah, one of our support workers, to tell us what it's like for someone when they come to the sanctuary for the first time. Usually they're at rock bottom.
So at the sanctuary, we tend to be the first kind of point of accommodation that somebody would access. So it might be that they've maybe been sleeping on the streets for some time, or they might just have very recently become homeless. And this can be for such a variety of reasons. We often have people coming in almost in the midst of sort of a mental health sort of crisis. Often people are struggling with addiction issues, so maybe addiction to drugs or alcohol. It can be that they are homeless as a result of a relationship breakdown. That can be a kind of a family breakdown, or maybe with a partner or friends that they've been staying with. And it really is often that rock bottom that we speak about, that actually they've exhausted all of their other options. There's no more sort of friends' sofas they can stay on or anything like that, and that tends to be the point that people do come and access the sanctuary.
I'm now here at New Hope House with Vivian, the manager of the recovery services. The recovery services help people who are at the beginning of their journey of recovery from alcohol and substance misuse. Vivian, can you tell me a little about what someone might be feeling or experiencing when they first move in to New Hope House?
So obviously there's a bit of fear. It's unknown territory for them. They've been using their substance and their alcohol as a crutch to get through their life. So actually going to be able to giving that up is their challenge, and that's their fear. It's walking into the unknown territory and actually walking into trying to find themselves as well, which they're fearful of because they haven't or don't know themselves for quite some time. So it's enabling them to support them in making these changes for it to be successful.
I'm here in the garden of the recovery services with Ian, who manages Cultivate, our horticultural therapy and wellbeing service. Cultivate works across New Hope with people who are coming along to the Haven, all the way to people who are in their own accommodation. Ian, can you tell me a little about the needs and challenges that people face?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, when people come into our services, they often come from a really dark place, a real sense of isolation and disconnection, and often carry a huge weight of judgments. The judgment is societal wide. Often there is a real difficulty for people on a societal level to accept addiction and mental health difficulties. And when people come in, often from having difficult early relationships, formative relationships, they come in a really guarded state of mind, often expecting more of the same. And so we're faced with that challenge of how we will meet that.
So people often have addictions, mental health problems, but alongside that there's a feeling of shame, of being judged, and a fear of relationships.
Yeah, definitely. Shame is a huge thing that we see, and that often prevents people from kind of connecting with their creativity. Often when people experience trauma, it has the effect of closing down their creative nature. So we're working with that. Yeah.
So when you say trauma, that's often because the people that we work with have experienced some awful things, particularly in their early lives, that are still impacting them today.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is with trauma is it's not processed. It's not sort of processed. It's unintegrated, and it's in the here and now. So people are carrying it with them in their bodies, in their relationships, and it's a real challenge. There's an awful lot of suffering that we see.
I'm now in the offices of the Tenancy Sustainment Team with Lydia. Lydia is the mental health outreach worker. Lydia, first, can you tell me a little bit about the work of the Tenancy Sustainment Team? I know it's changed and developed in recent years.
Yeah, we now support a lot of service users that are in temporary accommodation coming from Three Rivers District Council. While they're in temporary, we support them there, and then when they move into their first accommodation, and a lot of them, that's the first time they've had their own accommodation.
And can you tell me about the needs and challenges that these people face?
There's a lot of needs and challenges. A lot of them have complex needs. So it's about helping and supporting them through getting the basics of struggling to be able to understand benefits, especially if they've never had housing benefit, universal credit benefits. They've not had their own accommodation sometimes, so understanding about utility bills, whether they need a TV licence, things like that. If they've come from temporary accommodation, the properties they get from the housing association are empty. So they often have, they don't have cookers, any white goods, so they are literally just coming with their clothes and some bedding, and then we have to help support them get all those things.
And are the people that you're supporting generally, has the cost of living crisis, is that having an impact?
It's having quite an impact because a lot of them were just making ends meet before, and now they're really struggling, and they don't always understand, some of them, how it works with the utility companies and the letters that they get, and then if they are in arrears, that it's going to the sort of bailiff letters they get can be really frightening. We've got service users that have learning difficulties, so they can't read the letters properly, so to them they'll just see debt or overdrawn or whatever the letter is saying, and they might read going to court, and then they panic. They don't really understand what's going on, so it's really distressing for them.
And you focus on mental health?
Yes.
So many of the service users supported by TST have mental health difficulties?
Yes, a lot have. It comes under complex needs, and they do, and unfortunately since the pandemic a lot have sort of fallen through sort of the safety net of the mental health services because everything stopped, and then it's quite difficult to get back in, or it can be slow sometimes. So it's about supporting them and signposting them for the right mental health support that they need, and gaining their trust, gaining that we are there to support them, and that can sometimes take a while because they've been let down by professionals before.
I'm now in the Sheila Meaning Room at 67 Queen's Road with Sarah. Sarah is our chaplain and she's been at New Hope for just over a year now. Sarah, can you tell me a little bit about the needs of our service users?
Whilst I've been sort of going around the different services, I think one of the sort of things I really see is the lack of peace that many of them have, the perhaps the regret they may feel, the frustration and anger of not being able to break the cycle, particularly with the addictions they might be facing and might be in, and yeah, just the hurt and trauma, I think, for many of them from their childhood, and the sort of things that have happened to them in their adult life as well.